believing that something in them is especially suited to their subject. This consanguinity may be an illusion, but it may also be one of those fictions out of which certain truths emerge. Introduction. I begin this book with a chronology, included in a bonus PDF, because I do not always observe in the narrative the kind of chronological decorum expected of most biographies. Readers less familiar with the sequence of events in Plath's life may find it helpful to understand the order of time before attempting to master the back and forth of my numbered sections. The purpose of my digressions and disruptions is to come at the same events and issues from different angles, flashing backward and forward in different voices. The last days of Sylvia Plath play out in a zigzag pattern that cannot be straightened out without simplifying the intricacy of her existence. Her story remains unresolved, and something of a mystery that I do not want to wrap up neatly. In a sentence, I would say this book is an effort to show why Plath's suicide is not only an individual act, but also a concatenation of forces and circumstances in which concepts like free will and mental illness are factors, but not determinants of what happened to her, and what she did to herself. The reductive temptations to moralize and medicalize suicide are to be resisted, even though the etiology of suicide has to be explored. In other words, Sylvia Plath's last days, their shape and trajectory, were not inevitable. Each section of this book is a new beginning that I have decided not to signpost with a title. The numbered episodic sections reflect my surprise and discovery at where Plath's days have taken me. I wrote this book with a sense of suspense, which I hope the reader feels as well. To string out her life along one chronological line can provide valuable insights. I've done it myself. But there is another way, which implies that the last days of Sylvia Plath are not over, which is why the last two sections of this book deal with those who tried to cope with her last days, which we have to return to again and again, to discover what we missed, and to point out clues that yet others will pick up and put together in yet another configuration of her biography. Narrative 1. In her last days, Sylvia Plath struggled to break out of a tightening cordon sanitaire that formed around the towering figure of her husband, Ted Hughes. In the antique mythology of his retinue, she had become the gorgon, threatening to bring down the House of Hughes. The recent publication of Plath's letters to her therapist shows a beleaguered Plath fending off an abusive Hughes who wished her dead. This terrorizing of Plath, told in her last letters, formed the story that two female biographers, Harriet Rosenstein and Elizabeth Hinchliffe, wished to tell, but could not, because of the coercive conspiracy against their work, headed by Hughes himself. Hinchliffe, after uncovering new material about Plath's suicide, retreated from pursuing a biography. Rosenstein for a time held on, gathering new material, including interviews with 64 principals in Plath's life, 53 cassette tapes and 2 reel-to-reel recordings, and forming a friendship with Plath's therapist, Ruth Tiffany Barnhouse, married name Boucher. When Rosenstein first interviewed Barnhouse on June 14, 1970, she concluded that the psychiatrist had a massive vested interest in Plath. The same could be said for Rosenstein, who to this day has not disclosed what she knows, and, like Barnhouse before her, has protected a hoard of material just as Ted Hughes and his estate have done, shielding the extant Plath from public view. Even when Rosenstein put up her papers for sale, her broker's website overlaid one document upon another, offering Google-like snippets, a glimpse of a redacted Plath, teasing and taunting us to edge in at the margins of a life that has been censored by public archives and private hands, beginning with Ted and Olwen Hughes. Under their watch, missing pages from Plath's 1962 annotated calendar